Thank you for joining me for this episode of God Talk. And in this week's episode of God Talk, I want to talk about how God uses the right person at the right place and the right time. And a lot of how God uses people when I look at scripture and when I think about like just life in general, God uses people according to their capacity, and everyone's got a different capacity. And so when I say capacity, what do I mean by that? Well, I mean, our capacity are the things that we're capable of doing. Like we're good at certain things and we're not good at other things. And we can do certain things up to a certain level, but beyond that, it's kind of beyond our capacity. I mean, it's not in my capacity to play professional soccer or tennis or football or baseball or whatever, right? I mean, I play tennis once a week. I actually played in college, but I mean, goodness gracious, never even close to having the capacity, probably even with all the training in the world, to be a professional tennis player. I was really good at soccer. I had made it up to the state team as a youth. Might have been in my capacity to at least go beyond like college or something. But back at that time, professional soccer was basically limited to indoor soccer. But you know what I'm saying? Like, still, like statistically, chances are that that's not in my capacity. I have the capacity to be a good preacher, and I like to think I am, but I probably don't have the capacity to be a Billy Graham. I probably, if I did, that boat has already sailed. So we have our limitations. We have our capacity. My staff has a capacity as I hire, and then, as you hit like growth barriers and stuff like that, you got to think like, can you get more out of your staff? Can this person do more? Can that person do more? Are they like holding back? Maybe with a little training, can they get a little better? But there's also the capacity of the different people you have in place. They can't really give you much more than they're giving you. You think about that, like when you watch the NFL, and some teams kind of overperform. Well, they're probably playing at, and if it's possible, above their capacity. But that's pretty much the limit of what they're able to do. And so, in our relationships with God, I think we have a capacity there too. I mean, there's certain things that we're good with, and certain things, or I should say, we're good at, and certain things we do well. And God knows those things. He knows what we're good at. He knows what we do well. Like, I can't and you can't be everything to God. I mean, there's going to be people who preach better than me. There's going to be people who administer better than me. There's going to be people who do pastoral care better than me. But on a personal level, for each of us as well, I mean, there's going to be people that maybe evangelize better than us. There's people who have a capacity to understand the Bible better than other people. And so the beauty about God is He knows what our strengths and what our weaknesses are and what our capacity is, and He uses us for just the right situation at just the right time. I remember a while back, and I don't know if I mentioned this on a previous podcast, but it kind of blew my mind because my experience through COVID was, God wanted everything to be open, that Christians were just acting in fear, blah, 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 blah. Now, with that being said, I'm also well aware that in a lot of churches, there were a lot of people who died. My experience was that God wanted us to stay open. We did stay open, and no one at our congregation died of that or anything else. So it kind of confirmed in my mind that that was the way a Christian was to handle it. Well, that's not necessarily the case. And I say that because for a Bible study I was working on, I think it may have been just a couple months ago or 3 months ago, I was watching a video, and this pastor had this amazing testimony of how he got COVID, and he was on his deathbed and on a ventilator early on when like 98% of the people who went on ventilators never got off them. They never lived. And he had this kind of encounter with this angel over like 3 nights, and he ended up living. And for him, it was a miracle, and I have no reason to call it something different. And so in my mind, I've got to be like, well, wait, God wanted me, and I was certain of it, to stay open. And that was confirmed in the fact that like no one died. And the church grew through it, and saw a lot of like just really good and healthy things come of it. But here's this other guy that whether or not they stayed open or closed, he ended up getting it. But now he's got a miracle story through it. And so like God knew, like if he told me to stay open, like I would stay open. Like I have that, I have that kind of faith and confidence in him, that I would do that. And he created a story out of me that like touched a number of people's lives as that was going on. But in this other person, like God knew that like he would have a story with him being to the verge of death and being able to see God work in a miraculous way, and in that he would have the means and the way to get that word out through a video or social media, or what have you. You know what I'm saying? Like God's at the same time can almost be what appears to be doing complete opposite things in order to accomplish the main thing, which is to bring amazement and glory to his miraculous powers and his name. Like in me and in us, wow, no one died? No one died of anything for like a year and a half? No one's ever died of COVID? No, no. Wow, to God be the glory. And then for this other guy, wait, what happened to you? You had an angel visit you, and what did that angel say? And wow, you recovered, immediately or shortly after that. Like in both situations, God's name is being praised and glorified. And so I tell you this because you have a capacity. In some things, your capacity is higher than in other things, but I'm not saying like be content with being not great at things. But what I'm saying is like, listen, like you're only going to be so good at so many things. You can't be great at everything. You just can't. It's not how we're imperfect. It's how we're genetically wired. It's how we're societally wired. It's how we're environmentally wired, right? Like I'm just never going to be a real observant person because I'm always looking at the big picture. That I ignore the details because to me the details distract me from the point of things. Right? That's just how I'm wired. Well, I shared a story in Bible class yesterday, and I'll share it with you as well. But I was telling the story about how I had this experience a couple weeks ago, maybe it was 3 weeks ago, I don't know, but my truck had been really rattling, and it's not under the bumper to bumper warranty, but it's under like the powertrain warranty for another like 18,000 miles, and I'm trying to figure out, is the rattling a heat shield? What is it? So I thought it was a heat shield. I got under my truck. I couldn't figure out what it was. I couldn't solve it. So I took it to this mechanic that I've taken the kids' cars to because they've had older cars throughout the years, and we've needed to get repairs done. And I go and tell the guy what's going on, and like I was expecting to drop off the key and like have to wait for them to tell me what's wrong and to pay my my repair. And if I don't get it done, you pay your $100 and whatever dollars, $150 or whatever they charge you to look at it. But instead, the guy's like, let's go look at it real quick. And so we looked at it, and I was kind of describing it for him. And then I'm like, well, and he got the mechanic, and I'm like, if you guys have 30 seconds, it won't take long to reduplicate it. You mind just hopping in? So they hopped in. We drove right away, and right away they heard the rattling. They had me pull into the school parking lot, and then he's looking at it. He's thinking it's a heat shield that was near my tire. And so we took it back to the shop, and the guy's just working on it right there. And I'm feeling bad. Like they're going to do this for free. And so I tried to give $20 to each of them, but the manager's like, no, give it both to the mechanic. So I gave the mechanic $40 as he's just like messing with it right there on the spot. And I felt bad. Like I was profusely thanking him. And and so they end up giving me the car back, and it didn't solve it, so I took it back again. They diagnosed it, and long story short, they couldn't fix it. It was a bracket that broke up that was holding the catalytic converter. He said take it to a muffler shop. Blah 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 blah. Well, anyways, when the mechanic was the first time, like he was messing with it right there at the shop when I was still there before I left it with them. I told him thank you, and I kind of felt like I should just kind of say thank you and God bless you, like when he was done with it. He thought he was done with it. It didn't fix it, but we both thought he was done with it. And I'm like, that's just weird. Like I would throw in a God bless. I mean, some people do that, but I mean, I just that's not normally how I talk. And so I'm like, but I should, but then I didn't, and so forth. And so I ended up like, just thanking him, and I patted him on the back. Thank you so very much. He got us $40, whatever. And I felt like a little bit of a failure that like I could have at least said God bless, but I didn't say why. It didn't seem to fit, and I didn't want to be a weird Christian. And so sometimes I'm a little too sensitive to that. And so you could say my capacity level for being brave when it comes to coming across as being a weird Christian is somewhat low. And so I was beating myself up for that a little bit. But anyways, I get my vehicle back. They don't charge me anything. Like I gave the guy $40 to originally look at it. Even once they diagnosed it, they wouldn't charge me $1. And so they told me a place to go to drop it off, and or that might be able to fix it for me. I called the guy. The guy didn't seem all that friendly, so I found another place down in Haltom City. And so then the next morning, I'm like thinking, like I'm getting the strong feeling I need to go to this place that I'd found, had good reviews, and I need to be there when they open at 8 a.m. I had some other things I really need to do that morning, and so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna do something un-Greg like. I'm gonna be patient. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't need to be fixed today or tomorrow. I'll do it in the next few days. But I felt like, no, I need to do it. I need to do it first thing this morning. Like when I say I felt that, like I was feeling compelled outside of myself to do that. So like, all right, God might be talking. So I go to this muffler shop. I'm there when they open. Tell the guy what, kind of what's going on. He needs to call his manager. His manager shows up. Tell the manager what's going on. He's like, we might be able to take care of it. I'm like, well, do you mind just like looking at it right now and let me know? I'm pastor of church. I'm on my way to church, and if it can be fixed, great, quickly, great. Or if I'm going to need to leave it with you, it'd be just nice to know. So he puts it up on the lift, and he's like, yeah, we should be able to fix it. And I'm like, how much? And he's like, $40. And I'm like, what? And I started laughing. I'm like, just $40? And then turns out to be $40 cash, because I asked him, do you prefer to be cash or credit? And it's like, cash would be great. So like, I give a gift to this one guy for $40, and I listened to God's prompting. At least it seemed that way to me, to go to this place. And I got my vehicle fixed for $40. And I just want to challenge you, like, who in what decade have you ever gotten your vehicle fixed for $40? And so I chuckled at that, because there was a little bit of symmetry there. $40 cash gift to the guy who was doing something nice to me, and just a $40 bill for this guy who turned around and did something nice to me. So I don't think God really punished me for not saying that the God bless, though I do recognize that I need to be better about that. So this is what I mean about capacity. Like staying open during COVID, not a big deal at all. Sounding a little weird because you're going to throw in a God bless out of the way because you want someone to know that someone who's being nice and being kind is actually a Christian. That just seems a little weird to me. So we all have our capacities, and so do you. When I look at the Bible, this is how God works. He knows what different people's strengths are and what people's weaknesses are, and he uses you according to your strengths and to your strongest capacities, unless he's needing to use you for the things that you're not good at. But normally it's the things that you're good at. So for Hosea, the prophet Hosea, God asked Hosea to marry a prostitute, and it was to show Israel that like they were prostituting themselves against or with other gods against God, yet God still loved them. So God showed them this by Hosea still loving his wife, even though she was getting pregnant, probably not from Hosea, but from these men she was sleeping with. But Hosea was the right man for the right job. That was something he was able to do. Many of you listening to this, guys, might not be something you would be willing to do. Um, Isaiah. Isaiah got asked to lay on the ground and naked and to preach naked with exposed, maybe like a small cloth to cover his front, but it's his bare buttocks and everything. So it might have been bare everything, but certainly at least bare buttocks. Like I'm really glad God doesn't ask me to do that. I don't know if the Hosea thing's in my capacity. I don't. I'm not. I don't really think the Isaiah thing is either. Now the disciple thing, that potentially is. What's he do with the disciples? Well, he comes up to them and says, "Leave your job and follow me." Now, not everyone would be willing to do that. That one would be a little bit of an easier one for me. But you know, Jesus didn't have anyone tell him no, because he was choosing people that was within their strengths, within their capacity, and they followed him. Abraham, at least the initial capacity has to be, he's got to be willing to leave his family behind and move to a foreign land. That would be one, right? Like that would be one that some people would be able to do, but then there's some people that are connected to. When I say leave his family, he wasn't supposed to leave his wife. They didn't have any kids, but like extended family. But there's some people that are just way too close to family, and that would be a struggle for them, right? And then you've got Moses. Moses wasn't willing to do it at all, but God knew he had the exact strengths, the exact capacity for what God wanted him to do. And after pretty much threatening him with his life, Moses goes and does it. And look at what happens over time. Like he successfully leads Israel for 40 years, and he becomes a friend of God. And so I think sometimes we put God in a box and how God works. I think we kind of put people in a box. God is in a box and people are in a box. God is unique unto himself and people are unique unto themselves. But God knows us so well. He knows even the number of hairs on our head, that he's not going to ask us to do things that are outside of our capacity. He's going to outside of our strengths. He knows what we're capable of, and he's not going to ask us to do things that we're not capable of. And so I just want to encourage you with that, and not only encourage you with that, I want to challenge you with that. Like, what is your capacity? Are you living up to the fullness of your capacity? And when God calls and asks you to do something, when you feel that prompting of the Holy Spirit, when you hear that inner voice, when you just feel that tug on your heart and in your mind that you can't fully understand why, how, or explain it, if he's doing that because he knows well that you can, and that's what he wants you to do. So I encourage you with those words this week, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to talking to you next time. God bless everyone.